Your girl is getting her own NBC Late Night show. If I'm giving you the real vulnerable answer, it's hell no, absolutely not. Nothing has come easy. $3,000? That's not normal. Yeah. Go, go, go. Take that, internet. And I don't think anything in my life will ever be harder than that, to be honest. But who knows? The universe has a way of surprising us.
Lily, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. This is incredible. I'm so happy to be here. You two are very smart.
That's great. Well, we're trying to learn from you today.
That's very sweet.
I want to ask you, when you're a young Indian kid, the amount of times you are asked to dance in front of your aunties and uncles, it's just part of the job of being an Indian kid.
It is. Not only did I get that, I got the Lily likes to do rapping and I'm like, just... You really want me to rap Ludacris's lyrics right now in front of auntie and uncle? Because I can. What's your fantasy? You want to hear that right now? I can do that if you want.
My brother and I had a dance choreographer. We did like a dance troupe. We did Bhangra. We did all kinds of, and then once we got into karate, it was like a fusion karate Bhangra dance. And
Samir, show us.
Yes.
Show us. Come on.
That worked. I just got like chills when you said that because that was what happened.
I just got secondhand nervous for that. I was like, I don't know.
It was.
Don't do it if you don't want to.
It is a wild part of being an Indian kid.
Yes.
Is that you just are built to perform.
Yes.
Right.
But not if you want to pursue that as a career.
Exactly. Yes. That's what I was going to say. But once it becomes like, but I want to do this now. You've trained me to perform. I mean, I wanted to change my major to film in college, and I called my mom. And my parents are like pretty progressive, liberal Indian parents, but even they were like, I don't know. Aww. I don't think you should do that. Yeah. And not only is it that, but I recall growing up and, you know, seeing a lot of people like me in the Bollywood movies I was watching. Yeah. But the only representation that was in American television or media was Apu at that time. And I remember that was like a common thread when I went to high school. There's no representation of what I look like in this world. Did that at any point also feel like that held you back from believing that creativity could be a career?
I love how deep we're getting. Can I take off my jacket or is it going to ruin your continuity?
You're sweating because we're getting this deep.
I just now the questions are going. No, but this is a great question. And I'm going to give you a really honest answer. Yeah. A lot of people ask me, you know, growing up, not seeing yourself on TV, was that what motivated you to then put yourself on screen? And the answer is truthfully, as a young kid, I did not have that capacity of thought. Like as a young kid, and this is even sadder reality, is watching TV, seeing majority white people or black people on my TV screen. I just thought that was for a reason. I was like, oh, this is just the way it is. Yeah. You know, I didn't ever question because I didn't think it was an option. You know, even when I got my late night show, did you want to do this because all the other late night hosts look a different way growing up? And I was like, well, my parents never watched late night because the people didn't look like them. So I just never thought it was an option. You know, and it wasn't until I got older and discovered YouTube and discovered that, oh, I could actually change, I have an option to try to change this. I think as a kid, I never thought that option existed. I just thought, oh, this is how stories are done. Right. But when you see something like YouTube, you're like, oh, so I can do this from my house. I could do this on the side. I could learn how to do this myself and I can not have to go through 10 gatekeepers. Like that changes the game. That's why YouTube did change the game. Because I can say if YouTube didn't exist, chances of me going that route, slim to none.
I agree because I think YouTube, what you recognize is that YouTube is capped by your willingness to work.
Absolutely.
It's not capped by anything
else.
Which
is both a blessing and a curse.
Yes, very much so, yeah. So I remember for me, I was sitting in my college library and someone showed me Jenna Marbles' video where she makes the face. And that's, for me, the moment where I was like, okay, I'm studying film and spending all this time filming and editing these things. She made this amazing video straight to her webcam that everyone loves and everyone is talking about. Do you remember that era? Was that something that unlocked something for you as well?
Absolutely. I know the exact video you're talking about. And Jenna Marbles was a huge and continues to be a huge inspiration for me. And I remember thinking just that, like, oh, she's breaking the rules of what it means to entertain people. Like she is literally no equipment, no formal training, just relating to people.
All right, I'm here with Mr. Marbles.
And it's people like Jenna Marbles, and even through my experience on YouTube, where my number one rule for creating content is story first. Because now when you go into like big sets or late night shows and there's a whole bunch of people, 100 people doing jobs, I have no idea what their job is, I always feel like story gets lost. It's like, oh, this shot's not perfect, this is not perfect, this lighting, this prop in the back, all important things, don't get me wrong, but story is always the most important. People like Jenna Marbles taught me that because I was like, oh, she's literally just being relatable and funny.
Hello there, friends, and welcome to my tutorial
on how to trick people into thinking you're really good looking.
And people don't care if there's a little glitch in the editing. They don't care if the camera angle's slightly off. And I always try to remember that. It was a huge inspiration for me.
I was watching one of your vlogs yesterday, and there's a moment where you're in your car and you're doing improv with the shadow that is coming into the car. It's just
sounds like something crazy.
Yeah, it's just you, the camera, and a shadow, and you're improvising with yourself and the shadow.
Well, you're making me sound like a loser. I love it. Keep going.
No, I think it's something very unique to YouTube creators because I noticed this one time when Logan Paul was doing improv with himself, a fake parrot on his shoulder, and a dog who obviously can't speak English. Right. And I was watching it and thinking, this is incredible. And this is a unique talent that I think is very specific to a lot of YouTube creators because there are some creators who spend a lot of time with themselves and the camera. At what point, as you were, maybe this is even pre-YouTube, did you start to understand that you're someone who could entertain with just yourself and a lens?
It's actually, to be honest, if you look at my first earlier videos, someone else plays my parents. I have friends playing my parents. And then I called my friends to come over and they're like, we're not coming over every day to shoot videos for your YouTube channel. That was the only reason I dressed up as my parents. It's because my friends were like, stop bothering us. That's when I learned, and it's like the 7th video in or something. That's when I learned like, oh, I can just play with myself and take that, internet. Nice. I can take that.
That's the clip.
Fanfic club. This is the clip for you, baby. I realized that I could just improv with myself and use anything to be anything, and that it's okay in this space. And it's a safe space. And honestly, I love the idea of doing lots with nothing.
Yeah.
I might be a little turned on right now. I love the idea of doing lots with nothing. That is what YouTube is.
I think I'm
It is making so much out of so little. You know, webcam, a pile of books as a tripod. That's what it is. And so any actor or actress has been in mega movies, put them next to me. This is my open challenge. Put them next to me and say, we need a picture for the thumbnail, and see who the real star is, okay? See who the real star is, because
I have anxiety from
YouTubers' ability to 1, 2, 3, hit it. And someone else is like, wait, what are we doing? What is this for? What are the dimensions? Like, there's a talent to YouTube creators.
Thumbnail is one of the most unique things about what we do.
It's crazy. If you watch someone do it, you're like, that's not normal.
Yeah.
Like some weird voguing or something.
It's literally it's like, and the person next to you is just like, what is happening right now? Yeah, literally, it's a superpower.
When you were watching early Jenna Marbles on YouTube, was there any sense that, oh, what she's doing is actually her career and that's something I could aspire to?
So for the first 1.5 years, 2 years, I would say on YouTube, I did not think that YouTube could be a career. I didn't know. I didn't know that people would make money off YouTube. I didn't know that she was making money off YouTube. For me, it was a form of expression. It was an outlet to be creative. It was an itch I was scratching. It was me just trying to develop this part of my brain and be happy. The biggest creator at the time in Canada was a cool dude by the name of Fluffy Talks. When I discovered it could be a career was when Fluffy actually invited me over to his house and he was having a YouTube gathering. And I remember like, what? And there's majority dudes, I know. Yeah. In hindsight, I was like, questionable, but I'm a majority of dudes.
No, Mom, I'm just going to Fluffy's house.
Literally, I'm going to Fluffy Talk's really house. Cool. Yes, and Furious Pete will be there, who is this amazing other creator, and they're all amazing.
I remember Furious
Pete. Fine.
Furious Pete was the eating guy, right? Didn't he eat?
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember walking in, I was like probably the only girl there, definitely the only person of color there, and it was just a bunch of people watching their videos and screening their videos, and I'm going to admit to you guys, like I felt super included in something as soon as I walked in. I was like, oh man, people see my content and they are associating my content with a value, which is also something I never did. I thought it was just mindless, silly stuff. But these people actually were watching it and laughing and they were, attaching value to it. And so I'll never forget, we're sitting in this house and he goes, oh yeah, you can make money off YouTube. I bought this house with YouTube. And I went, you did what, sir? What did you do now? And that's when I was like, oh crap, I've been thinking about this very sentimentally, which is great, but like there's another layer to this that could be added. And so I started submitting my videos for monetization. Gratefully, they got accepted. And that's when I started to realize that this could potentially be a career.
So he bought a house in 2012.
That's what I'm saying, 2011,
wow.
2012. That's crazy. That is insane. And you also have to think about it from the perspective of me sitting there with my parents telling me what they know, which is like, this can't be a career. So like, I fully believe that this can't be a career. So when he told me that, my entire belief system was just rocked. I was like, I can break the mold. That was the first example of someone breaking the mold, which I thought was so cool.
How big was the channel at that time when you started monetizing?
Probably my channel was at like 50,000, 100,000 subscribers, if even that. I think my first video to go into the millions was that trend of like stuff girls say, stuff moms say. That was like one of the first videos, but my videos would not hit the millions or even close to that. So I was a pretty small channel still. I know this because when I bought my first camera, it was $699, and I was stressed about it because I was shooting on webcams for like 2 years. And then some creators started to upgrade to cameras, and I was like, oh my God, they're buying cameras, man. They have lighting now, they have a microphone. Look at this microphone. Yeah. Like I was just literally IKEA lamp on me, webcam was my deal. So $699 was that camera. And that was probably like 2 years into YouTube, a year and a half into YouTube.
At that point, you kind of recognize, or this group of people gives you a sense of like validation of what you're doing. Prior to that, where did you receive, I guess, validation in what you were doing?
Don't tell me this was going to be therapy out here.
I'm married to a therapist. I don't know if you can tell. Yes.
Oh my God, that's awesome and sad. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse.
Yes. If I'm giving you the real vulnerable answer, it's a chase I'm constantly on. You know, immigrant parents don't easily give validation. I don't know if your parents
that's
are
why I asked
immigrants.
The question.
Yes.
That's why I asked the question.
I got validated when I would do really, really well in school. It'd be a good job. You know, there would be no grand celebration. That would be a good job. It's kind of like doing excellent is almost the standard with immigrant parents, you know? And I know this because some of my other friends, you know, if they got a good grade, there'd be like a dinner for them or like a something. I remember after my grade 8 graduation, I was valedictorian, got a principal's award for leadership, and like, not to brag, but I cleaned house at that grade 8 graduation with awards.
Okay.
And I remember going home, and my parents were really proud of me, don't get me wrong. So proud of you, good job. But like, then that was it. Yeah. There was no like further, you know, celebration. It was like, this is what's expected of you. And I think I've always kind of chased that validation, even till this day. When something happens to me, I'm like, I gauge it based on how proud will this make my parents. That's why Canada's Got Talent is such a big deal to me. It is a smaller show. It is smaller than America's Got Talent. There's less people in Canada than in California. You know, it is by all means smaller. It has made me so proud because I'm like, my parents in Canada can watch this. They understand this. They'll be proud. So like everything I do is kind of measured. I'm on this constant chase of a little bit internally. This little girl Lily is like, will this make my parents proud?
As we all are, you know, as we all are. And I think like I asked the question because I think I can relate to that feeling of having immigrant parents, but I was actually a terrible high school student. Wow. So there was no hope for me, right, in that world. And so I got validation from like my peers and being like funny or being able to throw a good party or, you know, and I found these other pockets of ways to get validation. And I correlate how I am on YouTube and why I enjoy YouTube back to that chase for like being able to like bring a community together and talk about one thing and have people enjoy being a part of a community.
There is a period of time where I can relate to what you're saying a little bit in the sense that in 2015, 16, 17, when I was super, super hot on YouTube, my validation did come from strangers online. Yeah. And I basked in that. I was like, yes, let these people tell me that I'm amazing or sometimes tell me I'm horrible, but mostly tell me I'm amazing. And I think as I've grown up, I've realized that I don't want that to be my life, you know? And so right now I'm actively working to try to just make it me. Like, are you happy with what you did here? And like, are you happy with where you are mentally? And that's the most important thing because the sad reality is like my parents won't always be here and I won't be able to chase that gratification. And I want to get validation from the person who knows me best. That's me.
Love that. Yeah. It's beautiful. Life is like riding a bicycle. If you want to move forward, you have to keep pedaling. And that's just like being a creator. If you want to move forward, you have to keep uploading. And this is what it's like to work with the sponsor of today's episode, Jellysmack. Jellysmack works with creators to get their content across multiple platforms to accelerate both their audience and their revenue. If you're a creator who focuses on making videos for YouTube, Jellysmack will take those videos and distribute them across multiple platforms. They'll even take the videos straight from YouTube, and their team of editors, as well as their technology, helps optimize the videos for each platform. Jellysmack is trusted by some of the top creators on the platform, like MrBeast, PewDiePie, Phil DeFranco, and Yes Theory, but they work with creators of all sizes. Jellysmack generated over $100,000 in incremental revenue for 2/3 of its creators last year. They also implement multivariate testing, meaning they try a bunch of different combinations of titles and thumbnails to make sure the content that they're creating will perform. So as a creator, when you partner with Jellysmack, they take on all the financial risk so you can just focus on creating. So if you want to accelerate your career with Jellysmack, go to jellysmack.com, click get in touch, and tell them Colin and Samir sent you. That's COLINSAMIR. All right, see ya. around this time, like you're now making money from the platform. Mm-hmm. Was there a moment, whether it was a brand deal or a check from YouTube, where you were like, oh, this is going to be my thing. Like, this is a career.
Yeah. Wow, you just bring up all these amazing memories in my brain. One of the first brand deals I got was there's two actually, they came around the same time. One was for something called Steripod. It's a little clip you put on your toothbrush, and it sterilizes it.
Ooh,
and another one.
Need that.
It's great. Thank you.
I'm sold.
You hear that? If you're watching, give me commission. I'm still making moves today.
Great first sponsor.
I know. And another one was for Just Dance. Just Dance, the video game, right?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And I remember when we were discussing the first brand deal here, I was sitting with someone who was doing my like partner management at that time. Or in a restaurant, I vividly remember. I was like, so how much are they going to pay me? First brand deal, no experience. How much are they going to pay me to do this brand integration? He goes, $3,000. I thought he was joking because I was like, that is so much money. Yeah. I had $3,000. I just bought a camera for $699. I had to save up like a year for this camera. So I thought he was literally joking. Straight face, and I was like, no, seriously. And then his response, I'll never forget. He goes, yeah, I know it's really small. Usually I would never settle for anything less than like 30K for something like this, but I figured since you like the game. And I was like, 30K? And then he proceeded to tell me that one of his other clients just did a brand deal for 30K. And that's when my mind got blown, because I was like, that's money. That's like life money. That's a lot of money.
Some people make that in a year.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And so that blew my mind. And I put all this effort, as I continue to do, into this brand deal for $3,000. Because for me, $3,000, it might as well have been 30K, honestly. And that's when I realized the scale of what this could be, which was, I never anticipated that ever.
Were there any sponsors that came in that also gave you a sense of validation? Because I know for Samir and I, in our early career, there were moments where that was actually an opportunity to feel validated.
Yes.
Like, oh, Nike is willing to work with us. Like, everyone knows Nike. Like, were there any moments like that?
There's a lot, and I continue to have those moments today. Skittles, my favorite candy. Yeah. When they did a brand deal with me, and they literally, in my contract, as a joke, I was like, can you give me a lifetime supply of Skittles? They're like, sure. And I was like,
oh, wow.
What? Seriously? Like, that for me was so validating. As ridiculous as it is, I was like, you will give me a lifetime supply of Skittles? Seriously? Till this day, it's in my contract. Whenever I want Skittles, they will send them to my house.
That's
like, for
crazy.
Me, that's almost better than a paycheck.
Yeah.
Have you ever had those moments? Canon's another one. I got a Canon brand deal where they gave me a lot of equipment, and I was like, wow, you're helping me now create content better and like actually investing in my art. That felt really special too. Because it was like, we value what you create so much, and we're willing to support you with equipment, which was a really cool deal too.
Yeah, I agree. I think like brand partnerships that are value additive to the content are so just mutually beneficial. Yes. And I think sometimes brands don't realize that, right? That, and I think it's happening more and more now, because you're talking about brand deals in the world of 2013, right? Which was a completely different version. Like, you look at how today there's a system for you start getting you have a decent audience on YouTube, you can plug into many different ways to monetize. At that time, we were putting together our own like pitch decks and picking up the phone and being like, listen, we got 300 views on this video. Like, it's 300 people who could,
300 people?
we got 300 people who could be learning about your brand.
24 comments on this video.
That's right. Yeah. And like, especially me, because I'm going to be 10 fake accounts. So that's going to be, that's another thing I did back in the day.
You want 10 more comments? I can
fake
make that
accounts,
happen.
defending myself, all day, every day.
Right.
On that note, one other thing, and sorry, my tangents, feel free to cut them out, because I just like you and I like to talk to you.
Yes.
But another one that's a really good example is my current brand deal with Johnny Walker, and I'll tell you why. And
meaning
I feel
with
like
Johnny Walker, like Scotch.
Yes. So I have a brand deal with them.
Oh, exciting.
Yes. I'll tell you why this is important to me. Few things impress my parents, like I told you. Few things, okay? Very few things will impress an Indian uncle more than Blue Label, Johnny Walker.
Big time.
You go into my dad's basement, Johnny Walker. That is like a status symbol for immigrant parents. Like, look, I got a certain label, then I got a Blue Label. So when for Mother's Day, and then also for upcoming Diwali, part of my deal, I send all my family, engraved Blue Labels. Yeah. And let me tell you, of all the things I've done in life, very few things have made my mom and dad as proud of as them receiving a Blue Label of Johnny Walker that's engraved that says Lily loves you, happy Diwali. Like, that for me is a huge value add, because I'm this means a lot to my family. And so all my aunts are always messaging me like, oh, Lily sent us Blue. Who cares about the subscribers and anything else? Like, Lily sent us Blue Label. That's a big deal.
I think what you're bringing up right now, though, is this important notion that creators, and I think you're a very specific creator in our ecosystem.
Weird, I'm weird.
Well, yes. And your trajectory has mirrored more someone who is like a talent brand that is able to then jump into, hosting a late night show. Yeah. And like you're
doing things creators have not previously done.
But I think coming back where we all have common ground we are these creatives who looked at the internet and were like, oh, that's a place where I can just make my own luck. Creators are just a subset of internet entrepreneurs, which is just a subset of entrepreneurs.
Right.
And I think that people view creators a little differently because they see us on camera. They see us, like being more like talent.
Goofing around sometimes.
But to really look behind of you show up on camera, sure, and you're funny and you're charismatic, but everything behind that mirrors what a business owner does.
Yes. Oh, I have strong opinions about this.
Right? Yeah.
I, as someone who started in 2010 and had to be in many rooms with people in fancy suits that wanted to work with me or wanted me to explain what I do to them. We're in a better place now, but I can definitely say even now, there is this stigma with online creators that like, it's not that much work.
Yeah.
Every creator is a business person without choice. Like when I started, I have a psychology degree. I was never formally trained how to edit or how to be on camera or comedic timing or I learned all that and I thought, I know how to be funny on camera. According to some people, I know how to be funny on camera. All the stuff I had to learn otherwise, how to do deals, how to know if a deal is good, how to manage a team, how to then hire people. It's like, I was never trained for that. No one in my family has ever done that stuff. And so I do think that a lot of people do not credit online creators like they should. They are running empires and learning how to do that without formal training, which a lot of other entrepreneurs can't even say is true of them. Yeah. Usually they have that kind of training, right? So the hill I will die on is online creators and creators in general. They are some of the smartest business people and hardest working business people of our time, hands down.
Yeah, I often say that creator isn't a career, it can be a career. And in that can be is everything that happens off camera. Like everything that needs to go into actually making sure that, I can pay rent next month.
Yes.
Oh, I can pay rent for 2 months now.
Yes.
And then looking a year, 2 years, 5 years down the line. Like there's so much learning we've had to do to get to a place of comfort that we can live for another year, 2 years.
That's a great point because it's also the added pressure of there is no steady paycheck that comes from being an online creator, right? It's like one month during Christmas time, December, we're like, woo, AdSense is popping. In January, you're like, okay, we're gonna need to cut down some bills in January. You know what I mean?
So Vlogmas was good to me.
Exactly.
Skittles for lunch again.
Exactly. Okay. Why do you think everyone does Vlogmas? Let's just, okay.
In 2015, you moved from Canada to LA. Was that a moment where you started to think I want to make it in Hollywood? Or was that more just all the creators are in LA?
I don't think I genuinely believed that still it was possible to penetrate Hollywood. I moved to LA because I was like, most of my team is there. Every time I get a brand deal offer, I was flying to LA twice a month. A lot of events I had to attend were in LA. So it just physically made sense to be there. And I was still living in my parents' house also, which I think there's nothing wrong with. Yep. People love to shame me for that, but I'm like, no, that's what it was. And I knew just in life to take the next step, I had to step out of my comfort zone and I had to do something scary. And it was moving to LA. And when I moved to LA, everything I expected to happen happened. It was easier to do shoots. It was easier to have meetings with my team. I got invited to all these events that were great to network, yada, yada. I still didn't think that I'm going to be in movies and I'm going to be in TV shows. I would do some auditions here and there, but did I truly believe I would make that crossover? Not really. It took me a bit of time in LA before I believed that was possible.
Just to look at that era, 2015 to 2018, you were doing a lot of things in LA, right?
This question's making me tired because I know all the stuff I was doing.
You did a Pantene commercial. You did some work with HBO. You wrote a book during this time. Is that correct? Right?
You went on tour in the beginning of that period?
I think between 2015 and 2018, there was 2 tours.
Two tours.
Yep.
So you were doing a lot in this span. Also, side note, at YouTube Space, you shot a video where you needed a lot of Bhangra background dancers.
I do remember this one.
We were background dancers.
We're in that video.
Wherever
that video is. Yeah. Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
Stop it. Wait, I know exactly what you're talking about. If Bollywood was a something,
exactly
something.
Right.
If YouTube was
yes.
We used to hang out a lot at YouTube Space.
Yeah.
I absolutely need to go home and watch this. This is incredible.
We're in the deep back. Like it was in like right when you walked into YouTube Space LA, it was in the stage straight ahead and we were all the way in the back dancing.
It's a bunch of students from USC and then us.
This is before I even moved here. I know this because I was renting an Airbnb. I had 2 of my friends with me and I was like, we're going to shoot this very, very super ambitious video that I've never tried to do. And it was just such a hot mess, but the video turned out so well. Yeah. And I vividly remember so many creators coming out to help me and that warms my heart.
Yes,
my goodness.
We were there.
Oh, good times.
Colin sometimes calls us the Forrest Gump of YouTube because we like, if you look back in like YouTube history, we're like in the background of all these like
we're blurred out in the background.
We're blurred out and like
amazing.
these different things. But during that time, that window of time, you know, 2 tours, book, HBO, Pantene, you're growing the channel. What did you feel was the goal at that time? Did you have like a North Star in mind or was it just grow in any way you could?
So in 2015 to 2018, I would say my career exploded. I was doing crazy, unheard of things that way surpassed my vision board. I was like, I can't even look at my vision board anymore. This is crazy. My life is crazier. Growing so much in my career, stagnant spiritually. I will say that. So when you ask me like, was there a North Star? No, I never gave my time to think. Right. I never gave myself the time to think about like, what do I actually want out of all this? There was no time. It was, you got to go on tour. You're going to be here for one night. Then you're going to fly across here for one night. Then you're going to write this book and do all this stuff. I was enjoying it. And I loved it. And I was so grateful. I worked so hard. But if you ask me like, what did that feel like? And do you have any specific memories from those things? My answer's a little hazy because I was just go. Would win an award next day on a plane. Didn't even to myself be like, look what you did. Like, should you be proud of yourself? Never had that moment of being proud of myself. So my North Star was just to make it to the next day. Do more, earn more, do more followers, more deals, more this. Now, if you ask me what my North Star is, it's a much more spiritual, well thought out answer because I've decided there was a time for that and I don't want to do that to that extent anymore. But I was just like, I'm an Indian girl that's making moves. I don't have the privilege to stop and slow down and think about. I just want to keep taking all these opportunities, keep saying yes before someone changes their mind and doesn't want to give me all this stuff. You know what I mean?
At what point did you hit sort of a spiritual wall?
I think I've hit many a spiritual wall in my life, but I think, 2015 when I did a trip to Unicorn Island, that show was a lot about self-love. And so that for me was one part of a spiritual journey where I was like, loving yourself is important. And I believed that. Did I practice that to the best of my ability in terms of like giving myself rest and all that stuff? Not really. I think the biggest spiritual wall I've hit, a lot of people can probably relate, was over the pandemic. Quite recently. Yeah. I feel like now I have clarity better than I've ever had before.
Someone said this to me recently around like I think growth, and especially growth on YouTube, is intoxicating because it's exponential. And when it happens in this way that's just like, it's a snowball.
Yes.
Right? And you wait all this time and you're progressing and then all of a sudden it hits and you're like, oh my God, it's happening.
It's a drug.
And yes, it's a drug. And also you also were there when it wasn't happening. So exactly what you said of like, well, if I don't take advantage of this moment right now, I've also been around when this wasn't a reality. This momentum wasn't a reality. And I think that's a very intoxicating time. But if you don't take a step back to be like, what is enough? What is it? What would be enough for me? It saves you a lot of time in the later part of that journey. If you take one, and I'm talking about like an hour of time with a notepad and being like, what would make me happy right now? Where can I stop for a second?
Exactly.
Because if it's just infinite, it's like whatever opportunity comes my way, I'm going to take it because all of this might be gone tomorrow.
And don't get me wrong, I do feel in my unique journey, 2015 to 2018, where I didn't turn off and I kept saying yes and kept doing it, was crucial to where I am today. I don't regret any part of it. Right. Was it a lot and was it tough? But it was also amazing. I did like amazing things, but spiritually, like I said, I didn't have a lot to fall onto. I never had an end goal. I remember my vision board clearly said 1 million subscribers. It clearly said verified on Twitter. I'd look at it after hitting 1 million. I'd be like, okay, tomorrow I got to hit 2 million.
Right.
And every day I would do it. And it was like a drug. It was a high. And I think I experienced the low of that once I started to, when I did the late night show, my own YouTube channel got really neglected. And as with all things, no one's hot forever. My views on YouTube right now aren't that hot. YouTube's not my main priority. And that for me is when the drug really, I felt the withdrawal. In like the later years when I was like, oh, I'm so used to this many views and this many comments and this much engagement. And And that really messed with my mind. Well after 2018, when I was doing the late night show and after, I was like, oh, like now there's younger people on YouTube and now they're doing this stuff and now I'm not relevant. People are telling me, that's scary. That's when I felt like, oh man, I'm in a bad place spiritually if I have to really validate myself with all of these things that are not in my control.
It's interesting. And I feel like it is all so relative, because even if you look at your channel now, you'll post a video called Honest Q&A and it has 750,000 views of people who are just there to hear you talk.
Yeah, you're right. It is all relative.
Which is a crazy amount of people who aren't here actually for a sketch. Mm-hmm. It's just here for you to hear you talk, which is so interesting.
That you bring that up, that was another thing I had to reconcile with if I work really hard on a sketch right now and spend money on it and days on it, it's going to get 1/20th the amount of views as an honest Q&A.
Right.
And that for me, as someone who loves sketching comedy, I was like, oh, YouTube doesn't want to see my sketches anymore. They just want to hear about the drama in my life.
Yeah.
That was a tough pill for me to swallow too.
You're actually more in the like scripted content world, like sketch comedy and like actually writing out bits and sketches. What was the moment like? What was the first big break?
Well, let me break it down for you. I got teased a lot, in terms of like my career. Nothing has come easy in my career. People can have opinions about everything else I do. When it comes to me working for what I've earned, I feel like that's undebatable. In my opinion, that's something the hill I will die on, because I moved here and I remember one of the first movies I booked was Bad Moms. And I was like, oh my God, Mila Kunis, Bad Moms. Yeah. I flew somewhere to shoot that. I don't remember where I flew. She flew there. I have one line in the movie. Okay. Over the moon. I'm like, oh my God, I have one line in the movie. First person at the screening, first person there on the premiere. I was like, I'm in this movie. Did you guys know I'm in this movie? That was for me. I was like, okay, that's what it's going to be. And then the next one's going to be bigger. The next movie I did was Ice Age, Collision Course. I have 2 words in that movie. First person at the premiere, first person screening. Did you know I'm in this movie? So for so long, I would do these small roles that were really labor intense. And Fahrenheit 451 is a movie that came out with Michael B. Jordan. I shot all nights in Toronto in the cold, sometimes literally 10 hours standing just behind the camera, not even on camera, to be someone's eye line. And I remember thinking, it's okay. The dues you got to pay. I think I have like 2 sentences in that movie.
What punishment would you like to see here tonight?
So I did a lot of those things. And so because of that, I think I just kind of convinced myself, like, this is going to be your role. Like, you're going to do these small things and it's going to be really hard to go beyond this, especially looking the way I look. Then, I won't lie, NBC hit me up. And they hit me up because I did a pilot with them that didn't go. And they discovered me through that pilot. So a failure of a pilot resulted in me getting this late night show. And they were some of the first people to say, hey, we want you to host this show.
Your girl is getting her own NBC Late Night talk show called A Little Late with Lilly Singh.
And as difficult as that entire experience was, because it was so labor intensive, I cannot discredit that they very much so validated me and gave me that necessary step to believe that I could be more than 2 sentences, that I could be more than the 2 words that I have always been.
Welcome to the show.
And since then, now I am doing movies where I'm a bigger role. Now I am doing TV shows where I'm a bigger role. So everything happens for a reason. And I believe that was the purpose of that late night show.
Was late night something that you were targeting or interested in before that opportunity came about? Or was it more on the acting side?
My honest answer is hell no. No, not at all. Absolutely not. Because like I said, growing up, when I got the offer, a lot of my friends and my team were like, oh my God, yeah, I remember growing up watching, Seth Meyers and Jimmy. And I never had that experience. My parents, if I'm being honest, even right now, if they were to watch those shows, they would not relate at all to their perspective. No discredit to Jimmy and Seth, but they just wouldn't relate.
Yeah,
they don't understand that point of view. And so I never grew up with late night. It was just not something we watched. And so when I realized that, I could show a different point of view and be something different, I recognized the honor and the opportunity of that. And so I took it, but it was not something where I was like, this is what I've been working towards. I'd say what I've been working towards is just paving a path for our community so that they can have an easier time, honestly, and making little Lily proud. That's honestly what I'm trying to do.
Did you kind of understand it as like, this is an extension of what I'm already doing on YouTube? Was that part of the conversation, or was it, this is going to be something different?
It didn't feel like it would be an extension of what I do on YouTube, because the first season of the show didn't have a lot of sketch. It was very monologue, interview. And I'm going to be honest, I do sketch on YouTube And yeah, I continue to do sketch on YouTube, not because now it's now getting lots of views. It's just, it challenges me. You know, I find it harder to do than me vlogging and talking about my day. And I like that challenge. So when I got the call about the late night show, and I want you to know also my answer was not a yes right away. I took a long time to think about it. They had to actually call me back to be like, so what's your answer? Because I was just like, do I want to do this? The thing that pushed me over the edge to do it was the opportunity to do something historic and try to just chip away at that path I was trying to pave. And I found that to be important because if I said no, they might ask someone else who doesn't look like me. And then that would have been a lost opportunity. So when I did the late night show, the first season was truthfully a whirlwind for me. I walked into an industry I knew nothing about, script departments I knew nothing about, a speed, like YouTubers are fast, don't get me wrong. I could shoot videos really fast, but with the budget I was given, I had to shoot 2 to 3 episodes a day. And that is a lot of stuff to prep for an interview, shoot these sketches, prep for this monologue, have the writers meetings. It was just, the only way to describe it was it really tested every part of my being, emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally. Like I was put to the test of how much can you possibly do and take in one day. And so I'm always very transparent about this. The first season of the show was me learning about what late night even is and how this even happens. It is not an example of something executed well, in my opinion. There's some episodes here and there where I'm like, that was funny, that was cool, but for the majority of it, it's someone who's like learning how to do something new, and all the people around her are kind of figuring it out too because they've never shot late night like this either. And so I did feel a little bit, and not only in this example, I think in many examples across my life, the headline is, people will want you because of all the boxes you check in their world, you know? YouTube, late night, even now in my career, any streamer I work with, any project I work with, they will want you because of what you bring to the table. She's South Asian, all the headlines said it. She's South Asian, she's this, she's that, she's got this going on. But then once you're there, it's those same things that they try to limit. And this is the greatest detriment of any person out there that's trying to hire someone to bring their unique qualities to the table. Your system mutes all those things, you know? Whether it's, hey, let's not over-index on the South Asian stuff. Like, let's be a little lower. Let's not be like this or like that. It's like, because I'm like this or like that, that's why you wanted me in the first place, right? That's why my YouTube was such a success. And so that is something I continue to face at anywhere I go, which is you want me because of all of this. When I try to be all of this, you have reservations about being all of this, you know? Does
that feel that it's more like the marketing of it is very good, right? Of like, okay, yeah, this is very good that us as a network are, you know, more inclusive and more representative. But then once we get into the programming, actually.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's not enough. And I want to make this clear. This is about many different situations, not specifically Lane. It's not enough to say we're inclusive or we're diverse. And I think that's what, now that I'm thinking about it, kind of irks me about this diversity movement, is because it's not enough to be like, look, our late night host looks like this, because the system is not set up for that late night host. Right. You know what I mean? If you're bringing me to the table to start this new show and saying it's a historic show and you're advertising as a first in history and all this stuff, I'm going to need the resources to make it something worthy of that title. You know, I'm going to need, for when I talk about, oh, I really want to do an episode that's about Diwali, I'm going to need you to know that that's not a country across the world and that it's a holiday. I'm going to need that. Small hiccups in my day. I always tell the story. Small hiccups in my day. I did a sketch. I needed an Indian invitation. I'm like, I need Indian invitation. I get an invitation back, single page, has doves on it, has all this stuff. I'm like, I'm going to need 6 pages for 6 different events that look like this. Sorry, we don't have the bandwidth to do this. I'm like, this is not an option. This is what I need for this sketch because this is what it is, you know? Another small thing of like, I once on my late night show said, I don't think I've ever said this right. Once at a late night show said, my favorite actress is Madhuri Dixit. That was the sentence. And I get an email, can you translate this line for us? I'm like,
that's a person's name.
Translate this line. It's so hard to do a good job when you're dealing with things like that. And so I keep saying like, I'm so proud of the movements being made, but the system needs to be reworked. Like diverse people need the resources. They need people to understand those stories, and you need to be willing to bet and invest on those people. It's not enough to just put them in that spot and then throw them with the sharks.
Totally. I think that though, you stepping into that world, as you mentioned, like you wanted to do something historic. I remember the announcement because my mom sent it to me.
Ooh.
And
hi, Auntie. Thank you so much.
She's very proud of, Indian women doing things here in America. And especially I think of your announcement, which I recall very specifically as in a tweet. There's 3 boxes that you put with green checks next to them. And she sent that to me. And I was just like, this is a moment for our community, both our creator community, but it was very cool because for me, it crossed over in both, right? Like this is a moment for like the broader Indian community, the broader South Asian community. I think also just many communities that you fit into. So I think even your ability to step into that world and experience and have the feedback even that you're suggesting right now is a step forward, right? Because like before that, maybe it's like, we don't even know what that means.
I appreciate you saying that. I really do. And I've had to meditate on it. I won't lie. Yeah. The first season was really tough. The second season was a little bit better for me, but I still felt like this is really hard. Late night show is really hard, guys. I won't lie. And I do feel like I did it. And I really hope that someone else that looks like me can do it even better.
How do critics of traditional media differ from YouTube comments?
YouTube commenters, whether they like you or not, they're going to equally come at you. What really I found with traditional critiquers is that sometimes the harshest critique they gave me was just to ignore my existence. Honestly, we had for the first time in history, female vice president of the United States. When I got my second season of my late night show, I was like, there is a late night host that can talk about this perspective. Some of the biggest topics at the time were abortion, female bodies. I was like, yes. A lot of big outlets never even covered my take on it. It was every of the male hosts, their take on it. And for me, that was a harder pill to swallow than a hate comment. I was like, oh, you don't even want to acknowledge that a different perspective exists, even though it's been so hard to get to this position to be able to share that perspective.
How does that affect how you make each episode of the show? Like, is that a realization that you had obviously in the middle of production while you're making the show? And does it take you to a different direction or like put a different angle on what you're making?
I won't lie. A lot of the first season, the team around was, what's buzzy? What will people pick up? And that's a big part of late night. You have to think like that. But here's the thing about the first season of my show is we shot it in 3 months and it was banked episodes that would release over a year. So during a literal pandemic, I was the only person with a live audience making jokes about parties and cuddling with people and hugging people. And people are probably like, what is it? Not realizing that I shot those so long ago. And so how can a late night show be set up for success if it's supposed to be a timely thing you talk about every night? And I'm talking about literally making out with people during a pandemic. You know what I mean? So it was tough to even think about the show in any way because of the way it was set up. The second season, same thing. I was like, okay, it's a little bit more timely now. But I was like, let me just have fun. My biggest thing for the second season, and I told my entire crew this, was our main goal is to have fun. Because it's not worth doing this much work, having this many all-nighters, being this distressed to not at least say you had fun at the end of it. See, at the end of season 1, I was miserable and I didn't have fun. At the end of season 2, I could say I at least had some fun. And that was my goal.
First person into something like that, like you have a massive hill to climb, but I think you have opened up the door for the next person.
That is my hope, and I hope so.
And even your perspective on it opens the door for conversations with networks around like, oh yeah, okay, we could do that better.
Yes, and I also want to make it clear, like there's a lot of great things that NBC and many other companies have done. They gave me a chance, they did support me, but I think it's just, they need to take a look at the existing system and understand that with the changes of bringing new people in, other things need to change. And I think they just have never been in that situation themselves.
Sure.
It's a first for me, it's a first for them as well. So it's two people with their first being like, this is not going to work. Do you understand why? And they're like, but it has to work. Do you understand why? And I'm like, like me going on James Corden's show.
Right.
Thank you for coming to see us. We're so happy that you're here. Lily, this is actually the first time we've met in person.
Correct.
Very big deal. Because historically, late night shows have a lot of beef with each other. Right? And I was like, I would like to do things different. I would like to go on James' show. I am a fan of James. Went on that show. I think that was the first time anyone has ever done that. Been on a show that's supposed to be like a rival show. And and I was like, but he's open to it. And if he's open to it, I'm open to it. But like small things like that
Interesting.
are gonna have to teach the people and the archaic system of how new things can be done.
I think it's important to contextualize like where late night sits on the spectrum of gates being kept in entertainment. It's like on one side you have TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. And then I think you have streamers.
Yes.
Right? Which there does seem to be more opportunity for voices and perspectives to be heard. Then you have networks. And then within networks, you have this like...
Late night is very ancient. They're very set television. In their ways, like, for sure.
You went straight to like the most difficult portion of that spectrum.
For sure. For sure. That's a great way to put it.
I was just thinking about it. I was like, wait, that's actually, that's as difficult as it gets.
But the too long don't read of it is really helped me as a person. It has helped me grow. It has helped my career, undeniably. Whether or not how many seasons, regardless, it's helped my career. It's helped me learn what I want. And hopefully it's going to help pave the path.
So we talked about how like creators are multifaceted. Like if someone's just watching you on late night, again, they might, or watching your YouTube channel, they're like, oh, she's very funny. She's a comedian. I get it. But also a year prior, you launched your own production company. What was the impetus behind launching a production company, and why was that the thing you did in 2018?
My company, Unicorn Island Productions, was and is solely to tell stories about underrepresented voices. It's about the stories where when you take them to other companies, they go, this is too niche. This is who will relate to this. I've been given that answer a lot in my life. We love your story, not sure anyone will relate to it. And I always say, do you know how many Indian people there are in the world? A lot of Indian people, right? Yeah. But always for some reason, it was always like, people won't be able to relate to it. They're like, there's always an extra meeting that had to be done because my parent characters had to be on a sign. Will people understand what she's wearing? Will they understand? Like, there's always another layer. And I just got so annoyed at that, honestly, where I want to help build a world where that layer didn't have to exist for people. And so that's what my production company is. It's like, oh, you have a story that's about an immigrant mother that maybe other people don't get it. We will get it. Oh, you have a story about like a coming out, but it's not a coming out of just like anyone else. It's going to be specifically of a South Asian person because that experience is different.
Yes.
You know, and I know this because during my coming out, I watched all those movies. I remember like type A, I was like, I'm going to watch all these movies. They're teaching me how to come out. I'm going to do it just like Simon. What does Love Simon? He did this. I'm going to do this. And I remember watching it and his dad, he tells his dad and his dad's like, oh, okay. And then in the next act, his dad's like, I'm so proud of you. And I was like, oh my God, this is so, my experience was not at all like that. And I think people need those stories. They need to see themselves in the world to understand themselves. And so that's what I'm committed to.
I'm curious to talk about this, your experience of not only coming out in an Indian family, but coming out with a Indian audience, right? Like
and
that is
a global audience.
Yeah, a global. Like I'm talking about Indian people in India.
Yeah.
You know,
not no diet Indians.
You're not. You're not talking about like my family in Venice Beach, right?
Yeah.
Or like you're talking about Indians all over the country and all over the world, who I think made up probably a good portion of the audience that you were speaking to. So, you know, as you're mentioning that of like there probably wasn't many stories about what you went through. How did that experience play out for you, and how was that being a not only in Indian but also an Indian who had an audience online?
Yeah, it was till date the hardest thing I've ever done, and I don't think anything in my life will ever be harder than that, to be honest. But who knows? The universe has a way of surprising us. We'll see. I came out. I don't have the story where like I can say, oh, as a kid I always knew and I was holding this secret. I didn't grow up around any queer people. I had no idea about anything related to this. I moved to LA and started to learn about people's sexuality then. And so when I came out to myself and my dog, he's the first person I told. When I told him it was like September 1st or something, or no, like a couple days before September 1st, and I was like, I'm turning 30 in a month and a bit. I'm going to tell everyone that needs to be told in 30 days. Give myself 30 days to come out to every important person in my life. And I came out to my friends, I came out to my parents, which was by far the hardest. And they've never met a queer person either. So there's definitely a little bit of a learning situation there. And then I, in my heart, felt like, now that I've told my parents, I can be public about this. It took me 6 to 7 months to do that because I was so scared. The fears now I can see were irrational, but the fears I had in my brain were, what if brands stop working with you? I know that's not true. But when you're in that vulnerable state, you will convince yourself of any scare. What if brands don't work with you? I have an upcoming India trip. What if they don't let you in? What if someone does something to you in India because they have very strong beliefs. All these things are real things. The only reason, honestly, I was pushed to come out online was because it was just seeping into every part of my life. Like, I vividly remember this. I had to like walk out of an audition because I could not keep this in anymore. It was an audition to play, have you seen Jumanji? I want you to understand the magnitude of this.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, big movie.
The woman who makes out with The Rock. It was to play that role. I need you to know the magnitude of this. So obviously, not for the making out purposes, but to play alongside Dwayne, my literal idol. I walked out of that audition close to tears because I was just so emotionally and mentally distraught because I had this big secret. I wanted to tell the world I want to live freely. I also didn't allow myself to experiment because I was like, what if someone sees? What if someone else tweets about it? And the public figure aspect of it was the most terrifying because I'm like, I can't even control this to myself. I can't even have this be part of me. I have no choice but to be public about it because I have no option of just being completely in privacy. That is not an option, So when I came out, I was pleased to see that some of the most supportive people were Indians in India. And that was a huge sigh of relief for me. And when I went to India for that trip, I had a meet and greet with about 200 people. And I kid you not, when I say 60 of them probably came out to me in that meet and greet, which was like, wow, they've been really waiting for someone maybe that looks like them to encourage them to do that. What was the hard pill to swallow, though, was this really hard thing I did that I worked up the courage to do. I remember the most, I think it's the tweet that upset me the most. And I'll be really honest and say there are hate comments that do upset me. I won't lie, they are. I'll never forget it. It said, maybe I should come out as queer so I can get a late night show too. And I remember that stabbing me because I was like, how far we are apart from each other in terms of life, where you can think this difficult thing I did is beneficial to me in this way. It's such a twisted way of thinking about it, especially as someone who was literally suffered through insomnia during that time, literally felt physically ill for months doing this thing. It's this is all, and I'm going to have to add the added context. It's it hurt extra because I know it was a white guy that said it. And I was like, I wish you could meet me in the middle and see the pain of being someone like me. So you could see that it's so hurtful. So it was definitely wild. And then of course, the next morning I woke up after freaking out. I woke up and I opened Twitter and the number one trend at the top, big picture of me, Lilly comes out as bisexual. And I was like, this is a lot, because then it's your sexuality is the number one trend on Twitter. And how, as a human being, nothing prepares you for that. Humans aren't meant to take that kind of, stimulation to their brain. So it was a wild ride. I am now in such a good place and better, but it was a hell of a journey to get to this place.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, even if you just take that and take the public figure part out, right? And that's a challenging self-discovery and moment to work through in a family or for anyone. So yeah, I commend you for going through that because I think that the line that you just said that gave me chills was about you in India and that 60 people came up to you and came out. Because I think that there's so many people in the world who don't have a voice. And as you're talking about, what your production company and the mission of your production company, I think it's obvious where that comes from.
And actually this sums it up pretty well. Sorry to interrupt you, but something you said just made me think of it. I remember when I was sitting with my parents, I not only had to come out to them, but I had to explain to them that I would also come out publicly. They're two different things to Indian parents.
Yes.
Because what happens in secrecy is different than what happens in publicly, right? They almost had a bigger issue with the latter.
Yes.
As most Indian people would.
That,
you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I remember saying this sentence to them, and I don't think they totally understood it when I said it. I said, I have two options here. I can move with fear and be private about it. I've told you guys I can carry on my life. Or I can move with love and share this in hopes that I can help people. And I feel like that's the biggest distinction between maybe our generation and our parents, is that our parents are from a place of protection and safety because they had no choice. They immigrated, they had to protect themselves, they cared what the community said because the community was all they had. We are of the generation where we're we can share and help people. We have that privilege to be able to do that. So that is the stance I will always take in everything I do. If I can share and help, there's a greater benefit than being scared of, than moving with fear, and I've always thought that.
Well, I think it's amazing that you're open and you're able to tell this story now and look back on it. I'm sure as you reflect on it now, it's much different than obviously.
Oh yeah, when you can make jokes about it, you kind of feel so. Now I can be like, oh, it's fine.
Right.
But that was a rough patch for sure back then. I was fully expecting to tweet that. I had it all mapped. I'm going to tweet this, go out for dinner that night, going to go on a walk, have a drink. My life is going to be better. I literally thought it would be day and night. My life would change, and then that never happened. Like things got more difficult. I became more self-conscious. I had to learn how to flirt with girls. I got dating apps the first time. Oh, that's scary stuff.
DMs were open though that day.
DMs were open. Was my heart open? No, because I was scared. That's another thing. It's so annoying. I was like, trust me, I had every intention. I want you to know this. I had every intention of tweeting that, coming out, and then being like, I'm going to be the biggest hoe ever. I'm going to hoe it up. I want just one. I'm going to hoe it up. I was too scared. I was too in my head. Right. I was learning how to live out this new part of myself. I'm pretty sure the first time I messaged a girl, I called her sis, and I'm like, this is wrong. You know, I'm just like learning this whole new part of myself. And then also learning about like the first time I went to a family party while being out. Like I had so much anxiety prior to that. Right?
I understand that. Yeah.
This is the one silver lining of the pandemic, was that didn't happen for a while.
Right.
But that was tough. Like something so new about yourself and starting the late night show at the same time was a little rough, because then every interview would ask me about this. And I was like, I don't know yet. This still hurts me. You asked me this question, it hurts hurting me, you know, because I'm still so new. But I had to do all those interviews for all of those stuff. So now I'm in a better place to talk about it, but it was tough.
I imagine it's a very strange thing, because when you're a public figure, it becomes part of your brand.
Yes.
But you're discovering it at the same time.
At the same time, what a lot of people don't realize is that I didn't choose it to make it part of my brand. Yeah. Right? I didn't write the headlines, the repetitive headlines. First bisexual woman of color, get it. The number one thing people say if they want to hate on me is, we get it, you're a bisexual woman of color. I didn't write those headlines, right? And another thing I challenge people to, and this is the hardest part about being a minority, is when people use your identity against you. It's hard for us to accept. It's hard for me to accept. So, you know, when I talk about my sexuality in a monologue, I'm trying to be myself, and people catch on to that. You're talking about being bisexual again, we get it. Jimmy or Seth talks about their wife. No one's catching on to that, being like, are you talking about being straight again? Like, we get it, you're straight. And so there's a different standard that is set for any minority group, which makes things really, really challenging. We get it, you're brown. Oh, I'm just talking about my parents, just like everybody else will make jokes about their parents, but you're just flagging it because I'm different, you know? And so that's a tough thing to deal with too.
Yeah. I think it's like the media is like it's a representation of like relatability, community. And I remember both with your show and also with Hassan's show, one of Hassan's episodes I was watching, and he just breaks into Hindi and there's no subtitles. And I felt so excited by that. There was no subtitles. So I was like, amazing. Oh, that moment's just for me. And that felt like this crazy feeling of both seeing, you know, you on an NBC program talking about things that I got, and then Hassan on Netflix speaking in
that's amazing
Hindi, and even his Netflix special, where I was like, I remember feeling this wave of just like, whoa, this is wild. Like, I can't believe this moment is playing out in front of my eyes right now, that the themes that when I was in high school were at home. And then when I went to high school, you don't tell those stories. Yeah. Who's going to relate to you at high school when you start talking about what's happened at the Indian party last night?
It's so fascinating that you're saying that, because that is the magic of what we're doing.
Yes.
Going back to when I said when I was a kid watching those shows, I never watched them. I was like, oh, I don't relate. My parents aren't like this. I was like, this is someone's story. And I'm taking it in. And I think there's a large group of people who are seeing different people on screen now. And they're having a hard time reconciling. They're like, that's not about me. Yeah. And it's like, things have been about you forever, and now we're making more perspectives.
Well, because when it's not about you, you're like, well, maybe I should become that then. Right?
Yes.
So if that's not about me, then I'm the odd one out. So I need to actually become whatever that is.
But that's okay. I think what I would love to tell people is like, not everything has to be about you, but there should be things for you. As long as everyone has stuff for them, not everything has to be for them.
To do everything that you're doing, there must be obviously a bigger team around you, and even Unicorn Island Productions, that in itself is bringing on team. How would you consider hiring to be a skill set of yours? Because I feel like a lot of creators, it's just like me, myself, and I. but to do what you're doing takes so many people.
Yes.
So how did you go about hiring, and like, how do you know to trust someone to bring them into your world?
One of the hardest lessons I've learned is that there is strength in delegation, because for 8 years when I did YouTube, I shot it myself, I edited it myself, I wrote it myself, I did everything myself. And then I was attached to that idea, that control. And even when I moved to LA, I was like, I don't need an editor. And I would stay up all night editing. And then you know what I realized? That there's an editor out there that can learn my voice that is better than me. And so this is gonna sound common, but to be the smartest person, you have to be the dumbest person in the room. If I'm with my team, I am a smart boss if my editor is better than me. If my assistant knows my logistics and my calendar better than me. If my agents can negotiate better than me, that makes me a smart boss. And I took a while to learn that, because before I had to be like, no, I'm the smartest and like all these people. No, surround yourself with great people and your career will flourish, because you need people. You need people to progress. You can't do everything yourself. And if you do everything yourself, you don't allow yourself time for opportunity.
Totally. I agree with that. I think I totally agree. I think as a creator, you at one point you start hitting your head on the ceiling of time, where every hour of your day is booked. And then you don't have that moment of like, how do I receive something new? How do I see what's next if I hit my head on this ceiling of time?
Right now, if I was editing and doing all this stuff myself, I wouldn't be able to do Canada's Got Talent.
Right.
I'd be like, I can't. I have to edit these videos to meet this upload schedule. So what is the smarter thing here? Getting an editor who's phenomenal and way better than me, or to open yourself up? Because your job as a creator is to create. It is to come up with the ideas that no one else can come up with. It is not to sit there in Premiere Pro or Final Cut and do all that. It is not to do that. It is to do what you are doing best. And that is coming up with the ideas to create.
As you look forward, like Lilly after Late Night now, as you have come back onto YouTube in a more focused way, you have projects launching. You are going to be on Canada's Got Talent.
Yeah, woo.
With Howie Mandel.
Yeah.
How about that?
We see him around here all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
We never say hi, but next time we'll be like,
we used to go to the same coffee
You'll
shop.
be like, you're doing it with Lilly, and he'll be like, who?
Who? Who are you?
You never saw me.
And you're writing a new book. What does the world look like today of Lilly Singh? Like what?
Ooh. Well, today I did a lovely thing, and I met you two for the second time.
Yes.
Although this time you're not dancing,
Yeah.
so I'm disappointed.
Right. Well, it could happen.
The world of Lilly Singh looks like this. I think for the first time in my life, I have some work-life balance, something that creators don't believe can exist, and I'm going to challenge that. I think, yes, for a while, you got to hustle, but I do think work-life balance is important. My world looks like this. I still have meetings every day. I do a lot of Unicorn Island production meetings. I read a lot of scripts. I write a lot still.
That's cool.
I'm on camera a lot still. My life is a lot of everything still. However, now, when I'm given an opportunity, I don't feel the need to jump at every single thing, because I feel like I'm gonna miss out on this career. I feel confident in my career now. I'm in a place where I can say, is this gonna fulfill me? Does this feel fun? So that's what my life is now. And it's a privileged place to be, that I feel like that's the greatest accomplishment I've ever done, is being able to get to this place. Because I won't lie, before I said yes to things because I was like, I could be out of this industry in a year. I could be hot and gone. Now I feel like, no, I have something to offer and I will stay.
Post-platform.
Yes, exactly. I'm not just YouTube analytics.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're important, but I'm not just YouTube analytics.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are. Yes, we are. We are just numbers on a screen.
Deep in the analytics.
My last question for you actually is for all the aspiring creators who are watching, people who maybe have had like today, I feel like there's a lot more of this like flash in the pan. All of a sudden you have 1 million subscribers or followers, or you're just like made a TikTok and that's the thing. And now you're known for that and you're doing that thing. Like what is your advice in this career that sometimes does have that exponential growth or that immediate growth? How have you found yourself to build a sustainable career going through all this roller coaster that is the journey of being a creator?
Yeah, I think that's something I take pride in, the fact that I have been able to have a career that's lasted long, and now I feel confident that my career will continue to grow in this industry. And I can't even imagine, especially someone younger, if you're on TikTok right now or YouTube and you're having a hot moment, it's really hard to have that foresight. It's really tough. You probably have look right at you, probably have a lot of money and a lot of followers, and you should enjoy that and bask in it and do all that. But if you have a desire to have a career out of this and have longevity, you have to really find something that is your passion and work towards that. Because give you an example. My parent videos are very hot. I'm not going to want to do those forever. You know, I'm not going to want to dress up like my mom and dad forever. I do it now here and there, whatever, but there's going to come time where I'm like, I don't want to do that. If I decide not to do that, is my career going to be over? You don't want to be in that position where you're like, if I don't do this thing that doesn't fulfill me anymore, my career will be over. You have to be in a position where, and that's why it breaks my heart. And I'm going to sound like a mom here, but like when I see people online doing mean or dangerous things, I say, I know this is getting you views, but this will shoot your career in the foot because you have to think about the long game. So if you have a desire for this to be a career, if you don't, live your life, buy that mansion, do your thing, do it. If you have another plan, go for it. But if you have a desire to be in this industry, I do think finding your passion and something you really want to work towards is really important. Because my passion was never my parent characters. It was telling stories and like making a mark in this industry for my community. And so I can work on that through various means and continue to work through that in different ways in this industry. But if your passion right now is like, I'm going to do sensational vlogs, how long can you do that? How long can you do that? You have to just think about that. I know that sounds like a mom thing, but I wish someone would have told me that when I was younger.
Yeah. No, I mean, even for us, like why we have this show is because in the 10 years of YouTube, what we realized, the thing that was most sustainable, the thing that we could see ourselves doing into our 40s and 50s.
Sitting down.
Yeah.
Sitting down.
Yes.
That's good timing.
About it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it. Yeah.
That's
But
it.
like sitting down with other creators and having these conversations, like
Absolutely.
this is the thing we want to do. And so once we settled ourselves into that, then things started happening for us. Cause it was like, if we get good at this, we want to have more opportunities to do this. So it's like, get good at the thing you want to do for the long
Exactly.
term.
Let's make that our base.
Yeah.
Another thing I'll say that's a little mothery and then I'll shut up is I want everyone to know that our brains are not built to have this much feedback at all times.
Right.
Like the younger generation of creators, even our generation, to be honest, our brains are probably like, what is happening to like all these comments? And we all have an addiction to our phones. We do. Oh, yeah. I deleted social media off my phone. I kept trying to go to it. I kept trying to go to my phone. Like my hand is doing it. I'm not even controlling it. And so one thing I want to say to creators is like, I know to run a business, you have to know how many views, not sure, but like, don't get spiritually caught up in that stuff. You cannot let strangers on the internet who have never met you tell you who you are. You can't. That's not the life you want to live. It's just never going to end up in a win. Never. You have to just take that for what it is. There are comments from people that have never met me that are in their own story. They're not going to impact my story. That's just how it has to be.
That's a beautiful way to end.
You guys are very good at asking questions.
Thank you.
I hope you have a late night show.
I hope so
That's
too,
on
one day.
Place that has lots of money.
I think that could happen. And you'll be the host and I'll be on the couch, you know? And I'll just be like, I'll be like Guillermo.
No, I see it happening. You guys are very good at asking questions.
Appreciate that.